Muy buenas noches, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, muchas gracias to everyone for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, as the love and support everyone shares with me. From the heart, thank you. Also, do please like, share, subscribe, and hype the video to help this message get out a little further. Thank you again. Before I get started, I also want to thank every single person that has supported the channel with a like, with your time, and has showed me love one way or another. Do know I'm forever grateful. Like I stated before, there's a lot of you that has showed me a lot of things I wasn't aware of. And again, I'm thankful to you. But anyways, getting into the topic on him. Today I want to touch on Kenny and on our homie Thumper from Riverside. I don't remember his barrio exactly. I'm pretty sure he was from Casablanca, but don't quote me on it. I just remember he was from Riverside because, the tattoos, mainly the one he had on his neck, right? Anyways, this is right after I came out here to Mexico, and I know I told my story already, and just recently talking to everyone, on the lives a lot more. I told my story, pinpointing like the main things, right, to tell. But this is someone today asked me, well, my step back and all that, and this was one of them situations that it should have been an eye opener, right? But again, there's difference between loyalty and loyal idiot, right? I was loyal idiot. Never look for excuses to go against the green, right? But nevertheless, again, I just gotten out here to Mexico, and when I got out here to Mexico, I'm not gonna pat myself in the back because of anything I've done, but there was a lot of homies out here, right? But they were all over the place. You get what I'm trying to say? There was homies in Tamaulipas, in Jalisco, Guanajuato, Veracruz, Sonora, and there was homies doing their thing. And then there's some vatos that they started functioning with a certain faction out here, and you know, sorry I say like this, but they straight weenied out, covered up their neighborhood tattoos and all that weenie stuff, right? That at least I don't consider it to be correct, right? You are what you are, and you should never puddle hop. At least it's my belief, right? But anyways, Thumper was a homie that I got introduced to him the first time I came through Sonora, right? And again, I just remember he said Thumper from Riverside. He was working for the Senora Kenny, and he was presenting himself out here for Kenny to D, right, from Ontario. And again, it was the first time that I should have been like, huh? When a brother like D, as old as he was, politicking on his own brother and from his own neighborhood, same era and everything, it was Basically, I pushed through because it was none of my business, right? It was their business to do. But I never, at the moment, I never understood why D and Mono would eventually look at Thumper funny, like with distrust when the homie was a solid homie, right? Getting out the feds and he was out here doing what he was doing for Senor, which he had his own angle. As you guys know, Kenny ain't a lightweight in any shape or form, right? And Thumper was gonna present himself in to Michoacan, and he stopped by, of course, to pay his respects to D. That's his homeboy from Black Angels and his brother, right? As as Mono, and basically right there and then it should have been a couple camaradas that should have gone with him to meet that through, right? And I understand that Michoacan is it's hard, right? The Cañon is it's a difficult place in the sense that a lot of people complain because there's a certain faction working in the state of Mexico and they cause chaos. And that's Michoacan with five, six, seven different angles pushing, right? You never know who's who or who's working for who. And out here is, unfortunately, you meet your end real quick, like, and not like you expect to go right, or at least the expectations that we have in the state, which is through a bullet, right? It's just different, you know. Nevertheless, you know, they wished him luck and pushed through. And of course, I asked, like if we can assist there to support Kenny, and the homie thumbs. And Darrel said, nah, we got to stick to what we're doing. Let them do what they're going to do. That's it. I believe Darrel's thought was that the homie wasn't going to touch base to where he got sent, and he was going to be taken out, as many before that tried to wiggle in Michoacan, right? And but that didn't happen. Remember, I left to Culiacan, and throughout the times it was, how do I say, it was in time lapse that I would run across the homie, mostly because we were either out in the state or we were busted right out here. But he always stopped by at least with the old man D from to pay his respects, right? And he touched base with Kenny's family in Michoacan, and they were rebuilding a pipeline, you know. But of course, that was going to go straight to the feds. And again, it should have been an eye opener, right? Cause I remember one time we were up there and the homie took off, right? Cause he had to go deliver some feria. I guess they were opening up some bars, some sport bars, something to that effect, right? Out in Michoacan, and in between the states and Michoacan, that it ain't important, but and then eventually, hitting his mark through an avenue, and remember D saying upset. He was upset. I remember that day clearly, like, hey, we're doing what we're doing. We're not to help him at all. He ever calls you up, no, 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 and let them do their thing. I'll deal with my brother. So, I never really clicked. I was that person that, dispuesto, whatever you say, vámonos. and it boils down to jealousy. He didn't want nobody else being bigger than him out here. And it makes sense why him and Evil were bumping heads. They had the same push for Sinaloa, but they didn't meet eye to eye. That's why I don't know if you noticed, D was out here in Sonora and Evil was towards Baja, and Durango, and they just weren't getting along. It was jealousy. But what I didn't like right at the moment, or I saw it as a negative at least, I remember I was leaving to Los Monchis at that time. I was going to meet some camaradas there and something had to get done. But basically, it was a conversation that I remember I was sitting down peeling caña, right? And it was late and you overheard D and Mono speak and basically it was we can't have Thumper wiggling in Mexico. We got to do something. Mono said, I just let him as long as we're pushing for what we're doing, right? And he was dead set, no, they don't belong to the people that's supposed to be doing something in Mexico. It's, when I came to realize that out here in Mexico is a whole different faction. They think of themselves way better than Cali and Federal. And in reality, you think about it, and it's true, right? They're uh, they're putting the candy on that side, So you hear about all these bus over there with so much and so much, and you know, it's coming from somewhere. If you guys get what I'm trying to say, but it's how I knew they were separating themselves. And I came to learn that out here in Mexico, the rules and regulations that we grew up, or at least that I did over 20 years believing in, chales, out here they didn't count. They didn't matter. Out here it's a whole new cha-cha. You wiggle different when it comes to taking care of business. You boogie different. And believe me, it goes against everything that we're being crucified in the states of doing. But of course, they're above the program, right? And out here, it's facts. EME ain't nothing, but I can understand why Darrel felt that way because, again, he was jefe, right? He was jefe, and I don't need to say much for those that know about the nephew and that little blue truck and where they were wiggling at. And he was the top individual out here, point blank, right? But at the moment, I didn't realize the politics that he was playing against his own brother, and they weren't even stepping on our toes or anything. They were messing with Michoacan. That's something that we weren't doing at all. We weren't even stepping foot in Michoacan, point blank. We were, uh, everything we were doing out of Sinaloa, period. Either with Darrel, with Evil, with Richie, with Mono, where all those pilis, we were doing it out of Sinaloa. We were real close with the ones functioning with the cuatro letras, right? Jalisco. But other than that, we weren't mixing like that either, right? Anyways, it goes to the point that somehow, you know, along the line, Thumper Avenue got told on. You know, it was a straight finger. You know, it was one of them things that you see it for a while, and all of a sudden it's like they direct them straight to what you're doing, right? You know, it's a finger. It ain't like, you know, and then what would you say? The Huda, right, with the badge that was supporting Thumper tells him, tells him the get down, which is somebody told. But the worst part is that they basically set him up in Michoacan too. You know, Thumper and Kenny again, they were working with their family. Era la familia, right? And as you guys know, there's a lot of them, right? What was this crew? Viagras or some, yeah, Los Viagras. They were, well, you guys know they're at war with everybody, and somehow they got directed to where Thumper was, and the Viagras were told that they were moving 200 kilos per month, and basically they painted it like if you take care of this, you cripple La Familia, right? Which is it's ridiculous, right? La Familia has a lot of wiggles, to say the least. But they took it serious to the point that Thumper landed in Morelia, and on his way through Tierra Caliente, they basically got to him, took him in, and they do what Mexico does, which is torture you till you either sing like a bird or they take your life in the midst, you know, and then they gonna go throw you off like pajarito recién nacido, and that's exactly what happened with the homie. We came to learn. We were in Michoacan, and we came to learn that it happened in Morelia, right? And we were just passing through because we were going further down south, and it was like, how do I say it? It was like a thing of surprise, right? When we ended up going there and we flew back to Culiacan, and I remember, asked Mono, hey, you guys knew about the homie, and Mono said Chales, I didn't know. We did the story that you knew he was, you know, but after so much, you see, all wanted to move over there with Kenny. He was being held back by basically by D and evil, right? And so he pressed on and he says, "Look, don't question me. Whatever happened over there, ask Darrel for on it. He's the one that can answer you." Which at that moment it was let go. You ain't gonna question. You weren't gonna question D out here. That's a fact. Homie or other member. Cause well, if you ever rode near him, you know why. the disciplines are not met like the ones over there, regulation and let a little stab wound. Nah. Again, I told stories on how I seen Darrel turn in homies to the faction to take axe or a sierra to them. And, I would have probably backed up, because I thought the homie was a good homie, right? And I thought that's what we were doing, period. Which is whatever we were building, it was for the causa, it was for everybody. And I came to realize that, nah, there's a big separation from here to Cali to the feds. It's always yo soy el más chingón type of thing, right? Again, I go back to that mentality they have. A lot of people associate Tecato with nothing but dope or dolphin, right? They don't even know what Tecato. It's to me Tecato is a state of mind, the way they feel superior of everybody. They feel they have it coming, and at the end of the day, they just want to sit down, make feria, and slam over the blood and sweat of camaradas. But anyways, it came to be one of them things that we would end up getting busted, right? And one of them times that we got busted, and again, I was that dummy, right? That just never overthought things, just didn't agree with it in the moment, but the causa was still there, we were here for a reason, and lower your head and press forward, that's what it was about. That's why the person that asked me why I stepped back, man, homie, if you would have seen the stuff out here in Mexico, I ain't complaining on that, right? But let me just tell you like this: after you put in 30 years, you're given the utmost responsibility of taking care of what don't matter. But I'm pretty sure a lot of you can't imagine even how much candy and how much feria, right? Just to find out the pili that's supposed to be the más chingona here is snaking you from behind. And then if it would have happened, nobody could have questioned him, right? At the end of the day, I had already helped with building that pipeline, right? And then the excuses would have been like, hey, different cartel, hey, they took everything and they would have kept that pipeline, which again, I don't get involved in that. There's a reason why they still come to the ranch and do their thing, right? Because I ain't a rat. Even when it comes to my family, I ain't gonna get in between something that just me alone, All the butt whoopings I took in the jails, or when we got caught, the times I got shot, you know. My thing was personal with D. Unfortunately, they beat me to the punch, and my health didn't allow it. But anyways, this was just an inside, a cautionary tale on how it is in Mexico, And I'm telling it because I'm pretty sure as we speak, there is those camaradas on the streets and in the feds that are in the position I was, being given clecha to come out here and participate. What happened to you serving your time and you were able to go home with your family? You do what you do, but when are you entitled to do you? What they said, I hope I made sense, everyone. This was just one of them occasions that I thought I like to share with you guys, just to put some little light on their behavior or on all our behavior out here. I'll include myself because I was part of the poison. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you I was Santa Maria de Cancuta and stuff. No. Like I said, I put my head down, I pushed forward, never questioned it. But be smart, stay true to yourself and loyal to your loved ones. Buenas noches.